So as an evaluator, there are certain things that you should be aware of before even starting as an evaluator. Even at the club level, if you practice this, you would not have a problem. When we go into movies, let's take movies as an example. We all have our favorite genres. Some of us love romantic movies. Some of us like horror movies. Some of us like thriller movies. And on the other side of the coin, some of us don't like to watch horror movies like me because I can't sleep afterwards. Yeah. Or some of us who thinks romantic movies are too mushy would not like to watch romantic movies, which is it's each to its own. We have our own preferences. So likewise, in Toastmasters and public speaking also, we all know speeches fall into different categories. You can speak to inform, you can speak to persuade, you can speak to inspire, or you can speak to entertain, right? So as an audience member, somebody who's in the audience, if you want to listen to a speech, we have our own preferred types of speeches, and we have a least preferred type of speeches as well. So for an example, for me, my least preferred type of speech is informative speeches. I find it a bit difficult to sit and listen to 5 to 7 minutes of speech about information. It has to move me somehow, or it has to entertain me somehow, or it has to challenge my thought. If you're just giving an informative speech, I find it a bit difficult to concentrate. So it's okay as an audience to have your own biases. But as an evaluator, when you take the role of an evaluator, you cannot have a favorite type of speech because you do not know when you are evaluating the person. Let's switch to evaluation contest. See, I'm a contestant and I'm seated there, and the test speaker comes and deliver a speech about, let's say, global warming for 5 to 7 minutes. What am I going to do? If I go to the evaluation with the bias that I don't like informative speeches, it's going to be difficult. So number one, as an evaluator, is you cannot have preconceived notions. You cannot have favorite types of speeches. You have to be open and you have to be practiced. You have to be able to maneuver through all 4 types of speeches. That's the most important thing. And the second thing is always and always remember, even in an evaluation contest, you are not the star. If you want to be the star, you can compete in international speech contest, table topics contest, or humorous speech contest. Here, according to the Toastmasters speech platforms, formats rather, they are trying to evaluate how good you are in providing feedback for someone else to grow. So if you go to the contest with the mindset that limelight is not going to be on me, my task today, what I've been marked upon is how good am I going to elevate and provide effective feedback to my test speaker. If you keep this in mind, many of the mistakes that the evaluators does will go away. So keep these two things in mind. Number one is you cannot have own your biases on your favorite types of speeches. And number two, you have to remember you're not the star in this contest. You are going to help someone else shine. With these two things in mind, you go to the evaluation. And there are two types of speaker people who handle the contest. And in one type, the people who practice that type is a bit less. So there are 2 ways to handle the evaluation contest. Test speaker is speaking, you have a paper in front of you. Some would like to listen to the speech from start to the end. And then within that 5 minutes of time, you take notes because you want to provide undivided attention. And the second and most commonly used type is while you're listening to the speaker, you're taking down notes because you do not know after that 7 minutes are over, within that 5 minutes, whether we forget something. So either ways, whichever the way you're used to, practice that, no problem. But if it's your first time, what I would recommend is to take notes while you're while you're listening to the speaker, because the you know chance of losing points at the end will be minimal, right? So it is important because it's a battle between the time. It's important that you take notes clearly. So when you have the A4 paper, just what I would do, this is what I'm recommending. This is what I would do. I would not say this is the hard and fast only way to do things, but this is what I practice. You have the A4 paper, you fold it in the middle. On one side, you put the plus mark where you're going to record the strengths. On the other side, you have to put the multiplication mark, not the minus mark, because multiplication mark is the area for improvement, how we can help, right? So, and then what we are going to look for in a speaker is simple. Do not complicate things. We all know what a good speech should have, irrespective of whether it's going to be an informative speech or an entertaining speech, or so on and so forth. It has to have a good opening, and a good body of speech with an effective flow, and then you have to have the closure. So what you can do is paper plus multiplication point. You can say opening, body, you leave a lot of area to evaluate on the paper, and then closure. And then you take notes so that it's clear when you're going through the notes at the 5 minutes. You can elaborate on that. And now you're taking notes and you're taking down the strengths and areas for improvements. Let me tell you mistakes that we do that I see a lot of the times. Number one, when you are giving strengths to the speaker, when you're at the speech, you're going to give strengths to the speaker, be mindful that you're not going to be your parents to you, because our parents are the ones who see everything in perfection of us. Yeah. So in other words, what I'm trying to tell you is do not exaggerate. Do not say things that are not deserving. Now, for an example, I see some of us would say, that was a really good, effective speech. I see something in you. I see something bit like Dhananjay Hettiarachchi. So do not throw in compliments just for the sake of it, because that will affect your credibility. And the judges would think, does he really think that this test speaker is equal to a world champion speaker? So when you're giving compliments, also be honest to yourself. Do not exaggerate, because in the long run, you're not helping the test speaker. You're just boosting their ego, which at that point it is not deserved. And when you're giving strengths, I see a lot of people saying, Mario, in your speech, I really loved the usage of words. I really loved the command that you had with the audience. I really loved the sense of humor you had it. No point. I'll tell you why. Because think, if somebody is coaching you, if your mentor is saying, Mario, I liked how you wrote this script, or I liked how you use the voice. But I would want to know, how did it help for me to have a great speech? You have to be specific. Yes. For an example, what you could say, Mario, the way you painted a picture, the descriptive words that you used helped us to create the great images in our mind. Therefore, it helped us to connect. So here, rather than saying that you use descriptive words, you're telling how descriptive words helped for the speaker to give an effective speech, which is key, rather than saying the things that we already know: body language, voice usage, eye contact, all that. How did that help? Always make sure that you specify that. Otherwise, there's no point in it. You have to be specific when you're giving strengths. That's important. And it should make sense. I see some of the people saying, You had a beautiful smile, but it's just a physical trait. If somebody, for an example, if I'm a person who always has a beautiful smile, that there's no point in saying that in an evaluation, unless, for an example, how you could bring it out is that you discussed about a very tough topic, but you immediately put us at ease with that effective smile at the right position. Yes, so that way that makes sense. And the second thing, when you're delivering strengths or anything in the evaluation, please remember, test speaker has done the speech and the audience has listened to it already. So you repeating the speech will not serve any purpose. You only have 2 to 3 minutes. By repeating the speaker's speech, you're wasting time. It is important that you do not repeat the speech, because I see a lot of times, because they do not know how to put the strength out. For an example, let's say when you spoke about how you went through that agonizing phase in your life, where you had trouble, you were bullied. So you're repeating the speech. That's not what's needed. Now you have to understand, when you're doing the analysis, why you felt that. Because of the facial expressions they used or the modulation of the voice. Rather than repeating the speech, what you could say is, you made us feel what you went through in that low point of your life, through your voice, through your facial expressions, how you change your emotions, how you dial down the voice to deliver the pain that you had, rather than repeating the speech. That is important. And then the other common mistake I see in speakers, in evaluators, is that we do not have a smooth transition. As an evaluation is also a speech. You should have a transition from your strength to the areas of improvement. So you should indicate to the test speaker and the audience, okay, I have highlighted the strengths that you have. How am I going to go there? And please do not use practiced verses. Be honest to that moment as much as possible. For an example, what I would do is, now that I've analyzed and I've told you what I really liked about this speech, let me enlighten you, or let me share with you where I see that you have more room to improve, or you have more room to add value to your speech so that it becomes a better one next time. So that rather than saying, these are, now I have explained the strengths, let me go to areas of improvement, be creative and show the audience that you're transitioning from strengths to your areas of improvement. And when you're giving areas of improvement also, remember, number 2, do not be like your neighbors, because our neighbors are our worst critics, right? They want to criticize everything. So always remember, as an evaluator, even in a club, is your challenge is, after your evaluation, the speaker should be more motivated to come back again and speak. So you have to give effective feedback. How you can give effective feedback is, you have to be specific. Please do not say, I believe your opening would have been better. If I'm the speaker, I would want to know how it could have been better. Or do not say your ending should have been better, or you should have used vocal variety well. Tell me how, in which part, how I can do it. Always demonstrate. This is AATSL Toastmasters. I'm sure auditing is part and parcel to you, right? In audit reports, you get observations and recommendations. So in an evaluation, what we are not looking at is only a observation. Observation does not make any sense. Your job, your duty is to give a recommendation. You have to culminate both of them to provide a specific recommendation, which is important. And when you use words, you have to be careful. You can't say, you could have done that, you should have done that, you should do this, you must do it. Always remember, an evaluation is a subjective opinion. It's up to the speaker to take it or leave it. Be very specific and be very encouraging with the words you use, and be very positive with it. And then once you're done with the recommendations, it is important, like in a normal speech, that you sum up and you give an effective closure. So an evaluation is all about, if you remember my first 2 points, we do not have favorite types, and the other thing is the star of this speech is the test speaker. So what we want the test speaker to take through from this is to be motivated and go and speak next time. So your ending should always be empowering, motivating. So for an example, having shared the things that I really liked and that you really shine as a speaker, and highlighting the things that we can improve for the next time. I'm looking forward for an enriched experience next time. Something like that. So you always tell the test speaker, you've got this. These are your strengths. This is how you can improve. I'm eagerly waiting for you to do that again. That's how you should leave. And it's a very simple thing. You should not complicate. It's just that if you think as the test speaker, what I would like to listen, how would I like to get feedback, then you can be that evaluator to another contestant, to another test speaker. That's all what it takes for you to provide a simple yet effective evaluation. So I tried my level best, because normally this session of mine is about 45 minutes. Today I managed the task of limiting it to 15 minutes. I went overtime by about 2 minutes. However, even though it was just in a faster space, I thought I made sense. If you have any questions, if you want to dig in deeply and ask questions, now is the time. I can take questions. So please do not shy away. Ask any question. No question is nothing. I see one hand raised. Heshan, yes.
Hi, DTM Mario.
Hi, yes.
I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Then, when delivering our evaluation, rather than telling that points which the speaker excelled and point which the speaker should work more on to excel in his speech, is it okay if we say like this? Let me give you few areas that you inspire the audience a lot. After that, when transitioning to this points for improvement, is it okay if this evaluator could say, let me give you few areas that you could perspire more to inspire the audience, like that?
Yeah, it's no, what you're asking is of your subjective choice of words. As long as you get your get your basics right, and you know of the strengths and the areas of improvements, the wordplay is where you put your own identity, right? So some people, I see you like a lot to have a rhyming pattern in your words, because that creates a unique identity, which is okay. I would recommend that. But what I would challenge you to do is, do not get limited to that only, because I'm just sharing an experience. The very first time when I won the district, an evaluation could be done through acronyms as well, right? We use an acronym and we do an evaluation. So when at 2014, when I went up to district, from my club level to the division level, I went with this acronym. I said, let's for example, Toastmaster Pubudu, today your speech was a gift. In Toastmasters, people say the speeches are like gifts to the audience. Your speech was indeed a gift. The gestures you use, your intent, and the flow of the speech, and the techniques. So I use the letters GIFT, and for my luck, at the club level, at the area level, even at the division level, the speaker's test speech fixed like a glove to my acronym. But the challenge came when I went to district, because now I start with G, gestures. But at the test speaker's speech, gestures was an area of improvement. I had a challenge. Am I going to open with area of improvement? I learned from that. That's what I'm saying. Do not limit yourself to certain words. Do not think, okay, this is how I'm going to start. So do not have pre-planned quotes going into the evaluation. Let the moment inspire you. Let the test speaker inspire you. Pick stuff from his or her speech. But it's tough. I know it's easier said than when you're starting. So for starters, yes, if it's your first contesting experience, it's okay to go with cert little amount of preparation, as in like preparation as in prepared speech per se. But I would always recommend an evaluation to be impromptu, where you listen to the speech and then you create your evaluation, because that's how you can give 100% to the said speaker. But for starters, what you suggested is effective.
Thank you very much, DTM Mario, for your comprehensive answer.
DTM Mario, as let's say there's sometimes some speakers not properly prepared for some speeches, and when we evaluate it, we can see that. Is it okay if we say like if you practice more, it is much better to deliver the speech before you present to the audience? Like, is it okay to?
Okay, let me tell you now how you can take this general observation a level deeper, right? So the effect is the cause is not being prepared, right? If you take from cause and effect, the cause is not being prepared, but you should have seen the effect of it. How did you see that? There was like a abrupt pause in between, or you realize that the audio, that the speaker in certain areas was repeating his content. Okay, so how we can bring that out rather than just put the expressive, how we put things out. For an example, if I were you, how would I say that as an area of improvement, let's say Toastmaster Mario, at the part of where you seek help from your friend, I realized there was a pause that was not effective, that I lost the connection with it. Maybe if you practiced and rehearsed the speech a little bit more, we would have avoided that. Yeah. So again, go to the effect of not being prepared. So the speaker knows this evaluator is saying I'm not prepared because he or she saw this. This affected my speech because I didn't prepare. Rather than straight away saying, I would prefer you would have been more prepared because there were some awkward pauses or you repeated certain things. It's how you put things across, how you deliver the bad news in a good way. Yeah, this observation is completely all right to say, but you should rationalize it, how you are saying it. Am I clear?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. This is a very kind of a question because we have not exposed to the evaluation of speech. So
Yes.
kind of a beginner's questions.
Mhm.
So do you still suggest that acronyms to be followed as a beginner to evaluate the speech? That's first question. And second thing that I just want to ask, because as a thumb rule, how many points, because we are struggling with the time as well as we have to promptly organize our speech as well. So will that be okay for us to follow this much of positives and this much of like, I know it's very subject to evaluations.
Yes, no problem. I perfectly understand where you're coming from. So what you have to understand is I started Toastmasters in 2010 and I went up to division only in 2014. So by the time I tested my acronym, I was 4 years old in Toastmasters and I have contested about 5 contest cycles. So it's not a must for you to have an acronym. So if you see, Toastmaster Sham and Samir who won this time, he has been around and he doesn't believe in acronyms, right? But yet he delivers a good evaluation. It's an art. I remember back in the day we had a champions evaluator called Roy Mascarenas or somebody who always went with acronyms because that's his thing. But that does not mean that it gives you a winning edge if you do not execute it properly. So please do not get into your mind that you have to have an acronym to win. That's not true. And number two is that what I would recommend, because we have only 2 to 3 minutes, go with 3 strengths and 2 areas for improvement, right? But if the test speech need more feedback on areas of improvement, there's no harm in flipping it. But you have to be extremely positive. You can be, it could always be a detailed 2 strengths and you go into 3 areas of improvement as well. But you have to manage your time. That's one thing that I couldn't cover. By the time the green light comes up, which means you've taken 2 minutes, right? By then you should have completed your strengths. In the worst case scenario, you should be going towards your recommendations. Yes, because 2, 2.5, 3. Recommendation is the most important. If you see a ballot, you get, for recommendations, you get about 30 points, if I'm not mistaken. Summation get 15, 40, 30, and there's another 15. And now I have not contested for about 2 or 3 cycles, so I do not remember. But for sure, for like critical analysis, that's where you get the areas for recommendation. You get a lot of points. So if you're even by the amber light, you're still on the strengths, the chances of you scoring marks on the areas of improvements are less, and you would not have time to summation. Because as a judge, I'm very strict. If there's no summation, 0 points. That 15 points are not there. So you have to always sum up things. Yes. As I said at the end, you have to sum up. These are the strengths and these are the things that we explained. So I'm looking forward for a better speech. So that's you don't have to necessarily say in summation. That's an old thought. You don't have to use the word summation. You can be creative, but the judges and the audience should get the idea that you're summing up, you're weaving everything together to give the lasting impression. So just to sum up the question, no, acronyms are not a must. You can go with 3 and 2 rule. Either side, you can flip it, strengths or weaknesses or areas of improvement or areas of improvement strengths. And it's important that you manage the time.
Thank you, sir. That's question also very well answered. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. If time permits, I will go with one question. So,
yes.
In Toastmasters, we have a certain structure of evaluation that we normally we with the start, and then we go with the positive points, and then the improvements, and then we summarize the speech.
Yes.
So that's the normal structure that we follow in even in a club evaluation. But how do we develop that kind of evaluation into a contest winning evaluation?
It's like this, because I always believe doing the basics right. If you're a great evaluator, if you're doing an honest day of work to your speaker on that day, it's a cakewalk at a club contest, because it's just another evaluation. If you're giving 100% attention to your test speaker, yes, there is a pressure to perform, right? You want to win, but try as much as possible to take the competition angle out of it. For an example, this one would be saying the same thing. So let me think of something else. I see a lot of evaluators now, when there are obvious strengths, thinking that there's a strategic win by looking at something else, they are not just, it's right there, but they're not talking about it. Right? For an example, if the speaker was obviously hilarious, but if you go on the route thinking, okay, everybody will pick on that, let me not go there. So do not be too calculating, right? So what I would suggest is it comes with experience. If you win first time, that's great, but let that process go through you. Have a few losses, have a few third places, second places, gain experience. Because do not, evaluation is something that you learn over the time. So see how you can elevate it, or if you're normal, take everyday project evaluation as a contest speech. How you are going to do it? So now in clubs, we have club awards, right? So best evaluator of the day. So you see how you can improve. So ask from others, why? So is there anything that I missed? Or is there anything the way I said it, the tone? So be my principle is be honest to the moment as much as possible. Be honest to the evaluator, sorry, the test speaker as much as possible. Leave the contest aside. Don't do scheming. This one would say this. Don't do all that. Just have your connection with the test speaker and do your best. Elevation is that. It's just that being present in that moment, being honest to that moment as much as possible, that will take you to places. Because I would personally say Shami and Samira is like a living example of that. If you listen to his evaluation, it's very simple, but it makes sense, and he doesn't repeat. If you see his evaluations, they are not a word that is repeated in evaluation from one evaluation to the other, because he lives in the moment. It's a feedback. He doesn't have a pre-planned structure in his mind. So what you can do is, for starters, you can have a pre-planned structure, but going forward, do not have pre-planned structure, words, phrases in your mind, so that it's a completely blank. You can go and deliver an honest evaluation.
Thank you, DT Mario. Is there any questions from the audience? All right. So one last question, DT Mario. So
Yes.
When we are giving an evaluation, some speakers are really good, like we really unable to find an area of improvement. That is somewhere that I was find it difficult. If it is a not good evaluation, if there are no improvement points.
Yes. No. Even the world champion speech, Dhananjay Hettiarachchi's speech, can always at least have two areas of input. Again, you have to internalize it. That's the tricky thing. When you're listening to this, if you like this, if the speaker is very charismatic and it feels like keeping you hooked to his speech, you have to be present in the moment and you realize that, okay, I'm really liking this speech. Odds are not working in my favor. I have to put my thinking blinkers on. Like, this is okay. Yes, I'm enjoying. But did he execute it well? If it's a humorous speech, okay, the setup was there. Was there enough pause? And he delivered the joke, and this was joke after joke after joke. But did he give us room to laugh? Or did he start the speech because of the time, did he start the speech while we were laughing? That could be an area of improvement. So you, in a humorous speech, that will always happen, no matter how serious speaker you are. Sometimes we have that problem. Because he has a lot of content to give, he just goes on rather than waiting for the audience to absorb the joke, enjoy it, and move. So likewise, it's important. Yes, my answer is there are no speeches that does not have areas for improvement. If you say that you do not have any areas of improvement, which means, I'm sorry to say, you have failed as an evaluator because you have got carried away with the speech. That's why I said, like, like for an example, if you look at film critiques, we can go to a film and we can enjoy the film. So we go to Oppenheimer and we enjoy it. We go to Barbie, we enjoy it. But even film critics are human beings. They go there, they're doing their job. While enjoying it, it's their responsibility to look for underwhelming aspects and good aspects. Likewise, as an evaluator, that's the difference between you being an audience and an evaluator. So no, even the best speech in the world will have areas of improvement.
Thank you, DJ Mario. Toastmaster Heshan, do you have any other questions?
Yes, Toastmaster Pubudu, I have a question to ask.
Yes, go ahead.
Toastmaster Mario, is there something called ideal timing for evaluation speech?
Ideal timing is that is, as long as you stick, if it's your first time, right? Because sometimes it comes with experience, because if you are seasoned. So I always, by the time I say my last lines, the red light is on, because I have practiced a lot. But now, since I'm not contested, I don't know how does that work. It's just a practice thing. But as I said, if you're using the color lights or the cards as your like lighthouse to guide you, that's what I said. By the time the green light comes on, you should be done with your strengths and you should be doing that transitioning from the strengths to areas of improvement. This is the worst case scenario. The ideal scenario is you're starting your areas of improvement by the green light because it's 2 minutes. You have spent 2 minutes on strengths and opening. And then the idea of an evaluation is to give feedback, things to improve. How are we going to do that? So it's always better by the green light if you're done with your strengths. And the best case scenario is you're starting your recommendations. That's what I would say. But you can understand, you cannot, because being true to the moment, you cannot plan it within that 5 minutes. But suppose you are the first speaker, you only get that 5 minutes. How are you going to plan? Yes, so it's important that do not go into like planning and writing, and let's say you're the 7th speaker, you have your points in mind, and please do not, for an example, if your club contest is a large one like ours, because in our club for the evaluation we have about 13 contestants. If you're like number 13, you get a lot of time. That's a killer. So do not practice the evaluation, do not try to time the evaluation. That the originality takes away and it creates a lot of questions. You have to go there, audience and the lights. So you know what you're going to say and manage the time accordingly. Am I clear?
Yes, DTM Mario, thank you very much for that comprehensive answer. Over to you, Toastmaster Pubudu.
Thank you very much, Heshan. And thank you very much, DTM Mario, for joining with us today with this with your busy schedule. It's really appreciated the session and the knowledge that you share with us and your experiences. So
okay. Let me just take this opportunity to thank, it's like I'm homesick now. I'm in Dubai, so it's been 6 months. So it's really nice to see known faces from Sri Lankan faces, and then known members of Clive. Hi, I think you're taking up after me. Long time no see, but good to see you. And I hope this 1 hour's experience helped all of you all to go out there and inspire and help a friend to grow. That's all about evaluation. Winning and accolades come secondly. Even if you do not win in the contest, if your test speaker comes up to you and says, I really like what you said, you're a winner. Aim for that. If you aim for that, everything else will fall into place. Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me.
Nice taking you, Mario.
thank you very much, DJ Mario, again, and this certificate of appreciation for you as well. All right, so with that, let's move into the I think, Heshan, you can stop sharing now. Yeah, so with that, let's move into the next session today. So we have talked about the evaluation and then the humorous. So I think most of our club members are really waiting for this session, because I think there are so many participants are there with their questions. So I'm sure that Toastmaster Clive will get lots of questions. So the session today will be conducted by Toastmaster Clive James. He's a medical officer in various disciplines, including surgery, medicine, pediatric, and cardiology at Jaffna Teaching Hospital. And I think he has worked in Kalmune-based hospital as well for 2014 and 2019. And then he moved to his own family business, and currently he's a director at Medicine. He's a Toastmaster since 2017, and he's a his home club is the Millennium Toastmasters Club, and he was the past area director of area E1, and it was the president distinguished area as well. Toastmaster Clive, virtual platform is all yours.
Hi, good evening to everyone. So the typical Zoom first question, am I audible and visible?
Yes.
I hope I am. I'm seeing few cameras off. It's okay, I can understand 8 people in some of the, but if everybody could on their cameras, that'd be nice. I just see the faces, it's lovely. And like to see some laughing faces as well. Nice. Hi, Toastmaster Padma. Lovely. Good to see you. So how many of you all come from, hi, Shiman, I see you. So how many of you all come from like since I've come from a school match, so I don't want to start from that end. So how many of you all come from a family background where your grandfather has also played something for the school or was a prefect or something at school, and then your father was also had played something for school, or your mother has also played something for the school, and then you are the third in the family and you are also forced to play something in the school. Have you all been like that? Or your grandfather was a doctor, mother was an engineer, then you are supposed to be something, or representing the school in something. Have you all faced like that? Maybe not. I have gone through that situation. So my grandfather represented the school in cricket. He played for the first 11 side, and then my father, to make things worse, so he played for the first 11 team of the school, and then and also then he also represented the school in football. Right now, here comes the third child. Right now, peer pressure. Right, so your grandfather has school colors, your father has double school colors. Only thing is now I'm also supposed to get school colors, right? So, but only thing is the school has become bigger. I mean, at the time, my grandfather was studying, they had 500 students, I think. And my father was studying, they had about 1,000 students. I think when I started studying, they had about 3,500 or 5,000 students. So making it to a team from 5,000 is not easy. And I was also not interested in playing sports, but I represented my school in something. Any guesses?
Debate.
So I represented my debate. Good one. Close. So I represented my school in the bus salt. So, right. So morning and evening. So from I was living in Boralla. My school was in Bambalapitiya. So it's a 154 bus. So from Boralla bus salt, I'll start. Then the next bus salt at Java. Sorry. Near the BMS ES. Then the other bus salt in Bambala Junction. So Bambala Junction, and then couple of bus salts, because I mean, we were the luckiest school. Do you all know the girls' schools that is surrounding St. Peter's College?
St. Peter's. Yes.
Just give me some
St.
5
Paul's,
names.
like SPM.
St. Paul's, very nice.
Ramanathan Hindu ladies.
Very good. Muslim ladies. St. Lawrence. Holy Family Convent. Right? So that's already 5 ladies' schools. Just they are the only boys' school around. How lucky do you think we can get? So there are a lot of bus stalls, and we have been duty to make sure that everybody gets onto the bus safely and all that. So during that time, I actually found this person who I liked, and then I thought I want to get to know her. And to my surprise, she one day got into the bus with a badminton racket. Then I started going at that time, and then following up, and all these boys try to make sure they go home safely. So she I think carrying the badminton racket for a couple of times. Then I thought playing badminton is something, try to meet her and all that. So that's when I, to the surprise of my parents, I told them I want to play a sport. And they were over the moon, and they asked what sport, and they thought it was football or rugby or something. I told my father badminton, and he was like, "What is that?" So I said, "No, that's also a sport." Then anyway, I got into it, but I was not good at it, right? So when you go for practices, there are about 50 boys, and to make it to the team, that you need to have at least 7, 8 only. So in the practices, you have to play better to make it to the first 7 squad. And I could never get there, because unless you get to the squad, you don't get to play tournaments. Unless you play not play tournaments, you don't get to meet this person who I think I want to meet. And one of the things that I did actually to get to the squad was, so I had a small book, right? So in that book, I will have all these guys I'm competing with, Nadine, Suranga, Lakmal, and all these people. And then I have dates on it. Today, next practice date, and I say, I will won against this guy in the practice today. I lost against this guy in the practice today. So I was competing and nicely maintaining a book, but the book didn't look good because most of the practice games are losses. And one day, out of frustration, my father asked, "What are you looking at?" And I showed in the book, this small practice book that I have, something coach also guided. And he said, don't maintain this book. So he took to a new page and he erased Lakma, Surang, everybody on the page. And he had the dates on the book. And the rows in the book were not people. They were the shots in badminton. So he got to call one of his friends. It said long dash, short dash, long drop, corner drops, mid-court drops, mid-court play. And he said every practice, try to evaluate how much of percentage will you successfully play them, whether off the court or in the court. So, and I thought, let me do this. My father is asking this. So I was doing this for a couple of months, and then I saw I was improving. Right, I was improving, and I was only competing against that book now. He said, don't forget the practices, compete against that book. And that actually got me to a very good stand eventually. So today my father is not there, and I keep that lesson to me very strongly, right? Even today, wherever I do, whether in my profession, whether it's in my business today, entrepreneurship, or wherever, the lesson is that your real competition is you. So when I had that book competing against Nadine and Lakmal and everybody, I was competing against the others. And somewhere I was not focusing what my strengths, what my weaknesses. My focus was just beating this person, right? But he, to a new chapter in me, saying, okay, forget about the people around, but you compete against yourself, your shots, and then you know what you are good at, what you're not good at. So this is a small example of a story I gave you all. And one of the reasons that all of you all might compete in Toastmasters is that it's because it's good to see your faces. If you all can on the cameras, it will be nice, lovely. So, I'm very permanent, very persistent about it. So I like to see faces, so I know the reaction. And one of the reasons I'm telling you before I start my topic, that if you want to start competing, the only attitude that you must have is to go and do your best. And year after year after year, keep improving. Make a note. Where do you think you went off? Where do you think you can improve further? Get the three main criteria sorted in your head, right? Constructing a speech, writing the speech, and then delivering the speech. These are the three main things of the speech. I always compare a speech to a good movie. What do you think a good movie is? What's the latest good movie you'll watch? Barbie.
It's like what I read is if I wanted to watch it for a second time, I would take it as a good movie.
That's right. That's a good suggestion. See, so you want to listen, somebody wants to listen to your speech twice or thrice. That's a good speech, right? So a good movie has a good script, isn't it? And a good actor. There could be a movie with a good actor. It could be Shah Rukh Khan or Tom Cruise or somebody, but the story of the movie is crap. And again, you might not like it. But if you have a lovely story, but the actor is crap, then also you might not like it. But if both of them join together, then you actually love the movie. So again, in a story, whether it's humorous or international speech contest, make sure your script and the story is good and your delivery is also good. Unfortunately, personally, I am not the best to listen to, but I will share my experiences because I have not yet won beyond division. And my best I've gone is division first runner up because my good old friend Tarindu keeps winning the division. So hopefully, so I'm doing this because he's not in the country as of now. So, but the reason I compete is not to go and get a title. Yes, title is good. We have to win, but I want to improve day in, day out in speeches. So now if you are going to look at the competition as anything, one thing that I always do in my education and my children's education, one thing is studying, second thing is passing the exam, right? Studying alone won't get you past the exam. You have to also focus on the exam papers, past papers, who is going to the interview and so on. How many of you had a look at the humorous speech marking ballot? Hands up, right? So that's the first thing you're going to do. right? Understand what the judges are going to look at you. Because if you don't know that, you might think you have delivered a good speech. But the judges don't, because our answering scheme is different, right? Sometimes in the exam, we come and say, Amma, Tati, I wrote Amma this time 90 only, right? Nothing below 90. Then suddenly we are on 50. After writing the answer, we always think we are writing the best answer. Isn't that, Eshan? Huh? But unfortunately, the answer is not the same as answering script, right? So look at the marking scheme. And look at the marking scheme. What are the three main areas? Always go for the chunk of the mark. Catch the throat, catch the best part of the meat always. What are the best part of the meat? The 315 mark pointers. What are the 315 mark pointers? That is 50% of your mark. Now, what is that? That is actually speech development, value, and audience response. What do you mean speech development? This is where I want to focus, to take you all to this focus. Speech development. If you look at Tarindu's speeches, one person I've worked very close in Humorous, one of the best speech developers. I have not seen anyone so far who I have closely worked with who can develop speech so well. Why? There is called the LSD method: long term, short term, and on the day. What is long term? Everything that you face with, everything that you are focused with, write it down. Right? Write it down immediately in a book. I have a book here. On that, there are 2 pages. We have a table topic stories and my humorous stories. Whatever small points I write down. And when that write down stories there, that is going to be the concept to develop your humorous speech. The 15 marks is for the speech value and speech development. What do you mean speech value? What does it actually going to give you? Right? Recently, an incident happened to me, and it's in top of my list. You might actually hear it in one of my humorous if I compete. If I have, that's right, take home message. So, as a husband, ever since you get married, you are in this constant struggle to impress your wife that you are smart, isn't it? And, because every time that we do something, there's always something goes wrong. And then, you couldn't do this also, you couldn't do that also. But so recently, I went to my parents teacher meeting. Generally, my wife, of course, I went there. And I was the first to go there. When I went there, I parked the car. I got the parking nicely. I went through the main gate. There was no one around. I immediately called my wife and said, do you know what? I am the first parent to be here. She was surprised, right? She was laughing. Oh, wow, I'm seeing a lot of improvement in you now. You are taking things very seriously and all that. So about 15 minutes and I'm still the first parent. Half an hour went, I'm still the first parent. Then I knew something is not right. I went around the school and all that. I couldn't see a single parent from both sides. Okay, 1 hour down the line, now I had to reluctantly call my wife and said, is today the parents teacher meeting? Maybe the rate was wrong. No, that's the first thing that came to me. No, it's exactly today. Time is right. Time is also right. Then I said, where are they having it? From the front entrance? The school has 2 entrances, or the back entrance, right? She said, this school has only 1 entrance. I said, no, this school has 2 entrances. He said, no, this school has only 1 entrance. Then she realized, which school are you at? I have gone to my son's school, but the parents teacher meeting was for the daughter, right? So I really ended up at a completely wrong school, right? When I went to my daughter's school, I was like the 150th, right? So now this is a story, right? Written it down. Real life happened to me. It really happened to me just 3 weeks back. Now this is written down. Things happen in your life like that. Write it down. Now this story has only this much of humor, but I have to now polish this out. And how did I go? How did I look around the school? When I spoke to my wife, what did she answer? Put a bit of adjectives around it, make it a little more, interesting. For that, I look at some videos. I look at some, standalone comedies to get ideas. This is what I do. Right? I have a humorous story. I look at other humorous movies, humorous things, humorous drama, stand-up comedies, then get some ideas from them, right? And pitch it here. Your brain was also, they say that 100 brains are better than 1, right? So you cannot stealing ideas. I'm not talking stealing, right? But getting some ideas how to top up the speech, right? And then that is your speech development and the value, your take-home message. Now, what is the take-home message in this? How can I bring a take-home message in the speech about going to the wrong person's school? So this is a normal scenario that can happen between in a relationship, that, I could bring it up saying, okay, yes, I have also faltered, I've improved, but that's the beauty of it. Not both people are not up to the same expectations, but you need to understand both are different people, and, somehow bring a message in a way of how you can carry on a relationship, something like that, which is a common problem now. Is that problem relevant? Is it a relevant problem now these days? Could be. You can make it relevant. The amount of separations and so on, if you look at the counseling and depression and so on, it is one of those facts, right? How people don't understand each other in relation. So again, you can bring relevance to the topic, right? I remember when the economic crisis happened, or the Easter bomb or tsunami, you can bring relevance to that, something, or maybe some sort of riot that happened, or again, right? You can, but not to politicize, not to get it politicized, or not to hurt anyone, or, but you can bring a relevance to say, that can remember one speech was there that I liked it, how we can actually to be together. We should also understand when people just run around and do things, or, drive around or do something, maybe there's disturbance, maybe that person was not included. So we can't blame that person. Maybe we had to blame ourselves. So that was the message. So speech development is important, right? And audience response, that you have to master doing humorous speeches. Audience response is, now when I spoke about the badminton story, I said about, representing the school there, I represent the school, then I get a pause before I bought that bus salt. That pause was about all of you all thinking, okay, what did he represent? Was it chess? I think somebody said a debate and all that, right? Then I bought the bus salt story. Then I bought the girls' schools around. Because why people like to laugh for this? They like to go back to their school days. They like to go back to their younger days of reality in their life, and you take them to that story. Then comes this is 45 marks of your speech, right? Concept, development, and audience response is 45 marks. Now, what is the next 30 marks? Effectiveness, physical, and manner. Now that I'm going to talk to you all about, because that you all already know, day after day after day, when people come and give all evaluations, how effective you give. You must speak loud, you must speak clear, not to muggle up words, right? Look at people in the eyes, your body language, your effective stage movement, and all that you all have mastered. You all cannot falter that 30 marks. That 30 marks, you all must somehow get at least 25, 26 marks. If you've done Toastmasters for 5-6 years, right? You have to deliver a speech to a certain extent. That is something you can easily score. Then comes appropriateness, correctiveness, voice variation, right? How you pitch up and down, how you bring a dialogue, how you bring a lady voice in. You can look at the previous speeches. That is only about 25 marks. So now this marking scheme you must work at. So I don't want to take any more long. I think 10-15 minutes. We are all had a tiresome day, and now we'll talk about some both sides. Let's have some chat and see how we can develop a speech. So remember, before I conclude, any exam is about passing. Secondary is what happens after. So any speech competition is about trying to win. But the most important thing is your competition is you. Make sure you are actually beating yourself every year, and you will see how you improve in Toastmasters. There are some people who have not got through club for 3-4 years, but they have improved in their life. It took me about 2 years for me to get through the club. Another 2 years to get through area. Division is like eternal to me, right? I don't think I'll ever get through division, but I will keep on competing, right? So that is because for you to improve yourself. Then make sure your stories are written. Remember the story I told you about I went to the wrong parent-teacher meeting. Things are happening in your life like that. Your wife asked to bring brinjals, you bought coconut, right? It happens, right? Somebody says bring sliced prima bread, you bring the unsliced bread, right? Somebody brings boneless chicken, then you bring chicken with bones, right? This is what happening in our real life. What happens in our real life? Teacher stories, stories at home, right? So these things do, and someone is actually boneless chicken and you bring chicken with bones, somebody is not happy. Skinless chicken, you bring the chicken with the skin. Then you are supposed to remove the skin and make it as skinless chicken. So these things happen. So note it down and then develop a speech beyond it. That is Toastmasters. Opening, body, closure. The tip was that. And then audience response, master it. Delivery, you all are the best. all Toastmasters are. Make sure your body language comes in, eye contact comes in, voice comes in, right? So that's the main point, and then appropriateness. One tip I will give you before the competition is be in a happy mode. You are coming for a humorous speech. How can you be in happy mode? That you have to, don't go and swallow ecstasy or something. That also, I think, gets you to a happy mode. But I think before the competition, sometimes I watch some videos. Like, Jim Carrey is my favorite comedian, right? So before the competition, I put my AirPods on and watch Jim Carrey on, or maybe Russell Peters. And as soon as you watch Russell Peters, even during work day, if you're having a bad time, go and watch one of the stand-up comedies on YouTube. You will see how you relax. It's important for them to feel that you are coming with laughter. There's humor in you. You don't have to laugh. That is there, right? So hopefully, I think it's about 10, 12 minutes gone. So there are some tips for you to pick up. And I think now I'm ready for questions and we can interact more.
Thank you, Dr. Clive. So for the questions, I have started, like you said that it's, I think the most important thing is the script. So
Yes.
how do we write, in our simple life example, as you mentioned, like the story that you had when you went to the wrong school. So how we can develop a good speech script from that kind of life experience into a speech that where we can give an audience some sort of advice as well.
Very nice. Very nice. So now, good question. How do you develop from a small point? You have to start writing, right? It's very hard for Sri Lankans to write. We are talking and we don't go into the Word document and type. Now, if you have a very complex story where a lot of things happen, the entire speech could be one, right? Let's say a couple of boys, we hiked. I have a hike story with my school friends. That hike, from the day we started, day we finished, a lot of things are happening. One fellow fell down, one fellow drank something, and they realized some fellow was watching a horse upstairs. And that water was coming down the stream, and he drank the water because he was thirsty. We have finished water, right? So when there are a lot of things that happen in one story, you can have your speech it one incident, one scenario, right? You can gulp 700 words. It's about 700 words, right? 7 minutes, 600 to 700 words, maximum 900. Don't go in that. You start writing on the document. Don't worry about English. Don't worry about correctness. Just write the story. We start at the hike Friday 8 o'clock, and you start writing today. Then tomorrow, have a look. How do I correct it a bit? Because every time you read, your correctness will come, and give it to some peer. Right now, let's come to my story. Going to the wrong school. Can I talk for 7 minutes with that? I don't think I can. Right? It's a small story. It could be a table topic story. Now, if I am going to bring that to the speech about how in a relationship we need to understand each other, then I have to bring 2 more stories. Right? One could be with a friend of mine. Another could be with one of my teacher. Right? Something that happened between me and my teacher. Something that happened with me and my best friend. Something that happened with me and my wife, trying to impress or trying to be in the book good, and something that happened. Right? So in that sense, I will write this story. Once I write this story raw, I was trying to impress. I went to school. I was the first person. I will write it and type it. I type it. Actually type it. Then you will be amazed. Every time you look at it or give it to somebody else, they correct it. And in my club, I give it to, for example, if I write a humorous speech, I will send it to Karendu. He will have a look at Karendu Thirini. Send a couple of people. They will have a look and they will have another perspective, like the fellow who reads the book. So before you publish a book, you give it to your best friends, right? Then someone to do a preface, and that person can correct it. Of course, don't take away the element of core of yours, but the add-ons can come in, right? So that's a way to write a script, I think. You have to work on it. It doesn't develop overnight. They answer your question?
Yes, Dr. Clive, yes.
I think someone has put a hands up. Hey, Shant.
Hi, Toastmaster Clive.
Yeah.
I have a question. Normally, when we are including some humorous incidents, some incidents should be appropriate. Then, is it appropriate to include an incident such as misunderstanding the bar association as an association of liquor bar owners, because bar association is the lowest association?
No, you can. You can, but you should not do it in a way that it demeans anyone. You can. But if somebody was from the judges of Bar Association in the judging panel, you might have a bad day, right? But if you had no judges from the Bar Association, then you have a lucky day. Because, when people get offended, they try to mark a little negatively. Again, judges are humans, right? So it's best not to, in many speeches I have, I've been, a lot of my stories are ward and medical faculty, right? So every time there's something that comes in, I can still remember seeing blood and fainting in the first time. So there's a lot of stories that come to us through, including medical faculty, doctors. I can tell enough and jokes about doctors, what they do behind the scenes. But if I tell that, and if there's a doctor or somebody in the panel, he or she might get offended, right? So it's best to always make a fool of yourself, right? In both incidents. In my badminton story, who was the fool? I was the fool. My grandfather played that tennis, my father played that tennis, I played nothing. I was in the bus stall, the other fellow going around, every bus stall in the schools around, right? Then comes the parents teachers. It's always best is to make a fool of yourselves. Remember the clown, right? Remember Charlie Chaplin. Who does he make fool of himself? Does he make fool of yourself? No. He makes a fool of himself and he laughs. What a joke. Then Mr. Bean. Who does he make a fool of himself? I mean, fool of somebody else? No, he makes a fool of himself. And people don't mind that. And then you also bring a story that fool also became, I think one of the speeches I've seen from Charmaine, a lovely speech, where he was in school, the guy who was a, pathetic loser, getting beaten up. I don't know if you ever saw that. He won the division with that, I think, couple of times back. I was there in that competition. So I thought that's a nice way of doing. I also have won a area, and I think also division, something called Clumsy Clive, right? Clumsy Clive is a Clive that was very clumsy. I was a very clumsy boy. So my nickname with my friends was Clumsy. So even today, a lot of the friends call me Clumsy because everything I do, I walk in a supermarket, things fall. Honestly, I've not tipped on them or knocked them. Some reason, something falls down. So, so you can. So answering your question, yes, you can, right? It's a humorous speech, but better not to offend anyone, right? Because if you look at the stand-on comedies, if you go to a Russell Peter comedy or somebody's comedy, they're all making fun of different languages and different religions and different races, right? They talk about Indians, they talk about Chinese, eating noodles every day, and how can you live with noodles? I don't know, right? But people laugh. So I think it's true, but don't take a risk. It's always easier to make a fool of yourself.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Clive, for that comprehensive answer. Toastmaster Pubudu, over to you.
So I think we can take a few more audience questions.
I think audience are tired and hungry.
Yeah,
Dinner time,
maybe.
8 o'clock. I am also. I'm kidding.
All right. So another question that I have is like, when I'm cracking a joke, if audience is not really reacting, I feel a little bit upset, or that I'm thinking that I'm not generating humor. So how can we deal with such situations?
That evolves with practice, because I used to think I was really cracking serious jokes and none of the fellows laughed. I'm the one who's laughing, and it happened in my club. Everyone, they made a joke of that. Oh, Clive's jokes are lovely, because I thought they were funny, but I'm the one who's laughing. It happens, but I am much better now. I am much better over the last 5 years. I evolved to make a joke. That's what this competition does to you. Whether you win or lose, you must compete. And only when you compete year after year, you will see how you evolve, right? So that is an intellectual part in you, right? Yes, initially we think this is a joke. Right? Earlier, I think I had cracked some jokes. Now I think, oh my God, how stupid those jokes were. But now, little by little, I evolve. I think answering your question, Pubudu, it's an individual thing. There are a lot of jokes that we think there are jokes, but sometimes it doesn't create the humor in them. So you need to bring that, some relevance to them, like the bus or story going to the wrong school can happen, so, and make them think, oh, what has happened, and then immediately crack a joke. But this has come through practice and evaluate, and also have good peers. Always have good peers. Now, for example, at the beginning, I mean, most of my speeches, I just bring medical stories. And someone came and said, sometimes, a senior person at Toastmasters, Clive, one of the reasons your jokes are not felt as jokes is you are bringing a lot of technical stories, like, somebody with a leukemia patient, good. I know what leukemia is, I know what goes on, I know how to treat, patient reacts and all that. There are certain instances between a nurse and a doctor, but these are sometimes can be a technical environment, right? It's funny for us because I know the environment, no? Because I know the ward environment, I know what happens in the ward, but the common person doesn't know, right? The common person story is what? Going to a supermarket, going to a airport, going to a bus stall, trying to go to the passport so you get a passport. Right? That's the common man incident. So when you bring a story from there, I'm 100% sure 80% of these people would have gone to a supermarket today even. Right? So when you bring a supermarket incident, they all know. Right? Sometimes I was bringing ward and hospital incidences. 25% of the people have not gone to the hospital. Another 25% have gone to the hospital only last 4 or 5 years. Not relevant, right? Let's bring airport incident. Yes, somebody have flown, but recently none of us are flying. Why? Why are we not flying? Tickets are expensive. Not the COVID. COVID is finished, but I think we are not flying. The tickets are damn expensive now. But hopefully they will come down. Let's see. But so in that sense, I was just joking. Yeah, I'm not offending. I hope I'm not offending. That's one of the reasons I think I am not flying that much, right? So in that sense, try to bring an incident that people went about. I'm trying to draw a speech, for instance, I'll give you a tip on the fuel lines, right? If this season comes, right, I want to bring a speech out of my stories of standing in fuel lines, drinking there, being very peaceful in the fuel line at times because your wife thinks or your hero has gone to war to bring, meat to the house, but we are there sitting and having beer. Some of the 3 days get some 20 of fuel and come home, right? So, so these things, you can bring into a humorous speech, right? And there are gas incidences. So if you, I think I said, that is all you will develop. One of the reasons why the humor is not laughed by others is they don't connect to that story. They don't know the incidents, right? And I remember once I bought a story of going to Korea and some funny thing happened to me. No one was laughing. I was like laughing because that story they couldn't connect. No one has gone to Korea, I think, in that audience, and they could not connect to that story. So I think it's always try to bring commonness. What happened recently? If you're in the Haragalia, cooking and eating every day, forget Haragalia, but you made a point to go and have nice malupang every day in the morning, right? So what the hell, there's good malupang there, let's go have it, no? So right, so those things will get people laughing. I think that you will evolve with that, Pubudu.
Thank you, Dr. Clive. I think that really answered my question. So one last thing is like we heard that Toastmaster Tarindo said that when he won, like you guys may know me as the champion, but is the person who went word and word on my speech and kept my speech classy, avoided low-level humor, and really brought out of the performance that to the winning speech. So maybe you can share that experience and how you guided him to win the title. Yeah.
Wow, I'm really touched because I didn't think Tharindu would have given that comment, but Tharindu is a different personality. One thing I'll tell you about Toastmasters, Toastmasters is about a moment where you meet new friends, and you should not, put barriers to connections. You create connections, and I have not, in life, I've not been set. We all set trying to succeed, but I learn from everyone. I've learned so much from Tharindu, and Tharindu is to me the definition of persistence. I'm not trying to promote Tharindu, but he's the closest person I've worked with because he keeps on failing and failing and failing and failing and failing, and somehow you come back, right? Somehow he comes back and comes back. So every year at the back end, he calls me, he does the speech, and sometimes because I compete with him, I compete in club, I compete in the area, in the division, but it doesn't hold me back to help anyone, or it doesn't hold him back to help. He requires speech, but obviously he delivers is much better, and the way he goes. So when we look at the speeches, because he is having certain mindset on the speech. Then I look at it. For instance, I looked at the speech and said, Tarindo, this you are saying might offend the judges. Because there was something about ladies, right? He was speaking about a girlfriend, but somewhere down the line, there was some mention that can go about ladies. That it's your girlfriend. Don't generalize it. Right now, in my entire story about me and my wife, or me and my girlfriend, or me and my teacher, I can bring a joke between us two, both of us. Then if I generalize it, all teachers in the country are like this. Oh my God, there could be teachers there, right? Then he understood that point. Oh yes, valid point. Valid point. Let me just keep it to me and my relationship with her, and not generalize it to, she's being like a typical lady. Then basically you are taking your girlfriend and generalizing to the rest of the crowd. So these things, a third person looks at it, and he's got a very good head on his shoulders, so it doesn't depend on us alone. But then year after year, we have gone through speeches, scripts, back end, lot of work. But I'm happy that he got the double championship. One of the happiest moments, going through. Like any of you all, right? Work with one of you all in the club as a friend. When a friend wins, you are very happy, right? So I'm very happy for him. But he himself, I think winning, I think he has overstated this. I think the win is about 80% him and 20% the friends who help him. And I've been happy to help on the scripts. And then also on the acts sometimes, because sometimes you are speaking and you try to be very what do you call actor type, right? So for instance, there is a speaker in you, there is an actor in you, and you have to know what comes where, right? So once you start acting a lot of jokes, then it becomes a drama, right? In a humorous speech, there must be act, there must be props, but they should not have a main focus. The focus must be what? The story. Sometimes you get carried away. So sometimes speakers, when I in one speech suddenly bought 4 props. There were 4 stories, and suddenly said, no, eventually this looks like a prop story, right? Then you carry down only 1 prop at the end of the message. So these are things that you work at the back end, because as a speaker, you get carried away. So you need someone you can trust. Trust is very important. It's competition. It's one-to-one. Nothing should go out. Second, that person must give honest feedback, ensuring that he wins with wholeheartedly. So that is that connect that we have, and that's what we do, deliveries and third party. But then the final call is his always. Lighting, online concept, then where you move, where you want to do the story. So sometimes we miss, it's good to have a friend at the back.
Thank you, Dr. Clive. I think it's been a wonderful experience. So yeah, with that, I would like to invite, if you want to give any messages at the end to all the participants, and wrap up the session. Yes.
Of course, AATSL Emerging is a wonderful club. And of course, Heshan is a very outgoing person. So I've met him a couple of times, and he has always asked me to come to the club meetings. He kept me. I'm very sorry I have not had the time to join you all. But you all are a very up and coming club. And we would like to see AATSL emerging as, and I think the amount of people we see a lot of good potential people when you meet them around. Of course, every community club has different varieties of people, varieties of, you can't like a corporate club. So you need to adjust to each other, but play for everybody's strengths. And I want to see AATSL emerging as one of the top lining clubs in the country. And first of all, and second of all, thank you for having me. I would like to thank Chrishanthan, our president, and Pubudu People Education, who have been very, organized about this, because it's about respect. Somebody called me 1 month back. We would like to have you, not 2 days back, right? Then it's a little disrespectful. These are things that you learn in Toastmasters. Then the agenda was sent on time. I was sent 2 reminders, got a profile. Then Pubudu was sending the link on time. These are very nicely organized. I can say we do help people, but I guess sometimes they reach out to us 2 days back, day after tomorrow, can you join? We still don't say no. Right? If you are free, we still go. Even if somebody asks me, can you come tomorrow? We will go if you are free. But this is nice. So I think there's a lot I really liked about it. So that's, thank you again for having me. And I hoped I shared, but the best is to get more and more people coming in, because everybody will give you best. And hope to see a champion speaker from you all, hopefully in humorous speech very soon. But keep competing. The real competition is you. Make sure every year you are version 1, version 1.2, version 1.3, like software versions, car versions, phone versions. This human, this you also must have a version, right? Not a bad way. See, version's always good. A different feature in you, a different character in you, a different skill in you has come out, right? Your way of cracking jokes have improved. Winning and losing is a different thing, and you will see that actually impacting your whole life, and also how it impacts your corporate and personal life as well. And thank you again. I have a great competition season, and I hope to see you all speak better and better, and also see you all produce some good champions. WATSL emerging. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clive, for providing that valuable insights to us. Toastmaster Heshan, will you be able to share the certificate of appreciation?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think all of you must have been enjoyed this session for your evaluation and the humorous speech contest. I would like to hand over the controls back to the Toastmaster of the day. Thank you.
So now let's continue with the next session for today's meeting. There will be a prepared speech session. So the speaker for this round, Toastmaster Nilandi, will be attending a speech. So her speech title will be Selfish. To evaluate this speech, I would like to call Toastmaster Shima Farid. She is a biomedical research intern at University of Colombo, and she was being a club secretary for 1 year as well. I request Toastmaster Shima Farid to read out the speech objectives. Toastmaster Shima Farid, the virtual stage is yours now.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Toastmaster Akila. I feel really privileged right now.